Why is that picture kicking up a storm right now? I think it's very related to the fact that the Democrats are looking for someone to blame. They're looking at Bernie Sanders, they're looking at James Comey, they're looking at me. Can they blame us for the loss of 1,000 legislative seats over the past 10 years, for the loss of 2/3 of governors?
Oh shit. Hey, it's on, y'all. It was on.
Into that weapons embargo, as well as a freeze on the funding of any countries, and that is on the bank accounts of any countries that continue to fund terrorist enterprises. So unfortunately, that message, I would have loved for that message to have gotten out, but there was basically zero coverage. It's now circulating, and it's funny, Michael, you have to ask, why is that picture kicking up a storm right now? I think it's very related to the fact that the Democrats are looking for someone to blame. They're looking at Bernie Sanders, they're looking at James Comey, they're looking at me. Can they blame us for the loss of 1,000 legislative seats over the past 10 years, for the loss of 2/3 of governors, for the loss of the recent special election in Georgia? I don't think so. I think the Democrats really have to look internally. People have had it with being thrown under the bus.
Oh,
they're in the
shit.
worst shape since Reconstruction, the Democratic Party. So it's much bigger than whatever went on in 2016, no doubt. But I think many of us are now going back and we're, as I like to say, zabrudering every step of the way of the 2016 cycle. And Dr. Stein, the argument, put up those vote tallies, Catherine, because I think she ought to have the opportunity to respond to this once and for all. Michigan, you get 51,000 votes, Trump wins by 10,000. What other states? Keep them rolling. Wisconsin, you get 31,000, Trump wins by 22. One more. The state of Pennsylvania, 49,000 for you, he wins by 44. Will you once and for all respond to the idea that but for you, Hillary would have been elected?
Wow.
Absolutely, and thank you for the opportunity to get this message out, because the exit polls and the studies have made perfectly clear, and I know from conversations on the ground, that Greens don't just vote for Democrats. In fact, the studies show 61% of Greens would have stayed home rather than have voted for either Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. And of those that would go out to vote, over 1/3 of them would have voted for Donald Trump. So wishing that pigs fly doesn't make pigs fly. So Democrats might wish and they might assume that they own green votes, but they don't own green votes.
Holy
Candidates
shit.
have to earn our votes. And Hillary Clinton did not earn the votes of Greens, and Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump did not earn the votes of neither Greens nor 45% of the American people who refused to vote for either of these two candidates who were the most distrusted and unliked candidates in recent history. People were clamoring for other choices.
Wow.
You can understand, looking at that data, you can understand how there would be an analysis that says Vladimir Putin was reading the tea leaves in the United States and thought, bring Jill Stein to dinner. Anything. I know you had a meeting as well with Sergei Lavrov, and that you went into Red Square and recorded those moments. Meaning anything he can do to give you prominence is going to pull from her, despite what you just said. You have the final word on this.
I also had a meeting with Jeremy Corbyn. I had a meeting with the deputy head of climate negotiations in Paris. So, this is the job of candidates, is to represent people and important policy initiatives that are getting short shrift. For the students who are locked into a lifetime of predatory student loan debt, for workers who do not have adequate jobs, for people who don't have health care and deserve health care as a human right, which actually pays for itself, doesn't cost us anymore. These are critical to our future. And to get that 45% of people back into our elections and to get them voting, we need to hear more voices and more choices. And thank you, Michael, for helping to make that happen a little bit today.
Holy
Dr. Jill
smokes.
Stein, thanks for being here. We appreciate it.
Wow.
Thanks so much.
Let me see
Jeez.
some more of what's going on my Facebook page and via Twitter. What do you got? Jill Stein was also in Putin's pocket. Putin is good at funding vulnerable puppets. A little praise, some cash, and they all go in. Look, Sandy, I think it's a legitimate subject to go back. And how often have we talked about Mike Flynn taking, what was it, 45K from RT and the dinner, and there he is, and he's at the table, and all of a sudden we're doing a second check now. We're saying, Jill Stein was there too. Why would Putin have invited her to dinner? Was that his way of trying to give her some prominence? One more if we have time.
Wow.
Smerconish, Dr. Jill Stein don't want to admit she got played by Putin. She was an unwitting tool to prop her up in the campaign against Hillary Rodham Clinton. Look, we just went through that, Philip. Bottom line is, I think Jill Stein makes some sense when she says that the two candidates who were running were viewed in many circles as the most flawed of the modern era. And they were squaring off against one another, and many people, there's no way they were going to vote for either. Up ahead, when the Bill Cosby case ended in mistrial, the DA made an immediate announcement that he would retry the comedian. Might he regret that snap decision? My thoughts are next.
Oh, it smokes.
You don't let anything keep you sidelined.
Oh my
That's why
God.
you drink Ensure with 9
Woo!
It's one of the most endangered whale species on Earth. Their global population estimated to be just 500, but 5 fewer today after a grave discovery in the Gulf of St. Lawrence.
Having 5 of them die, that's like almost 1% of the population, and it's almost certainly going to have a negative impact on the population's recovery.
The Department of Fisheries and Oceans revealing 5 North Atlantic right whales have been spotted dead, last seen between the Magdalen Islands and the coast of New Brunswick. The species already so rare, the feds are promising they'll do everything possible to understand what happened.
Finding out what happened to these...
Wow.
Bernie, Stewart just pulled up. So remember, the key is to be firm, show no weakness.
Right.
Good luck.
How did you get back here?
Never should have told you my middle name. Hey, you got a minute?
Sure. Let me just put this stuff in the fridge. I felt bad for finishing your yogurt, so I bought more. And Howard, your favorite fruit is in season. French berries.
Don't let that sway you.
It's hard not to. They taste so much better than real berries.
What's up?
So, we need to talk. You okay?
I think we should talk. Is everything okay?
You've been living here a while now.
Wow.
Which, according to the Senate bill as it stands, there wouldn't be any penalty. Why would those younger, healthy people who don't see a need to have health insurance even participate if they have no penalty for not participating and then getting it later when they may need it? How would that actually help drive the insurance premiums down if they're not in the market and the people who need insurance, who are the sicker, the older, the people who have pre-existing conditions are the ones who are in the market, and insurers are forced to provide coverage for them?
Well, I think the way I'd put it is everybody in America wants to have health insurance. The problem is not their desire or lack thereof to have health insurance. It's how much it costs. And for young and healthy people, particularly under Obamacare, the premiums are just way too expensive relative to A, what they can afford, and B, what their actual expected healthcare consumption is. If you're 27 years old and you're perfectly healthy and you go to the doctor once a year, why would you want to pay $300 a month in health insurance premiums that you're never going to use? So in this bill, by reforming those elements, and also, by the way, by extending tax credits to younger people in a way that gives them more incentive to participate, this bill will, I think, have a much better mix of healthy versus sick, young versus old, and I believe the Congressional Budget Office will score it that way eventually. There are a couple of tweaks they need to make to get that result, but I think they'll get there.
Now that CBO score is supposed to come early this next week. Senator Bernie Sanders, by the way, just finished up speaking on his Don't Take Away Our Healthcare tour. We showed it to you moments ago. He told the crowd in Pittsburgh the Senate bill is even worse than the one passed by the House. Listen.
Let me be as clear as I can be. This so-called health care bill passed in the House last month is the most anti-working class piece of legislation passed by the House of Representatives in the modern history of this country. And the Senate bill, in some respects, is even worse.
Wow.
Is this bill anti-working class?
You know, Anna, I regret to have to say this, but what Bernie Sanders just said is pure propaganda. As you know, because we talked about it on...
Absolutely. They need to shut up with their propaganda, gossip, rumors all over the freaking place.
Propaganda. As you know, because we talked about it on your show,
They really need to shut the fuck up. Jeez, shut up. Let's move on.
And the Senate bill, in some respects, is even worse.
Wow,
Is
shut
this
up.
bill anti-working class?
You know, Anna, I regret to have to say this, but what Bernie Sanders just said is pure propaganda. As you know, because we talked about it on your show, the House bill actually had a lot of defects in terms of how it treated people in the working class, particularly people who were nearing retirement. This Senate bill works very, very hard and is very carefully and intelligently crafted to address just that problem. So this bill is actually much, much stronger in terms of the protections and the financial assistance it directs to people who are of lower income, the working poor, people in their 50s and 60s. And that's one of the reasons why I wrote that article that you cited in the beginning of the segment about why this bill would be such a policy achievement.
Oh, Vic Roy, thanks as always.
Thanks, Anna.
Wow.
We have some good news tonight. Republican Congressman Steve Scalise is out of intensive care and is in fair condition. Scalise was shot in the hip last week. The GOP baseball team's practice. He's still going through an extended period of healing and rehabilitation, but he is improving. And another victim of that shooting, Matt Micah, is in good condition and out of the hospital. Here's a picture of him at George Washington University. Hospital sent this picture of him with Jason Worth of the Washington Nationals, who stopped by for a visit on Thursday. Micah is expected to make a full recovery. Now, U.S. military officials giving CNN some information about that deadly collision at sea. 7 American sailors dead aboard their destroyer last weekend. Up next, some preliminary investigation results. We have them live in the CNN newsroom.